Morning all, it's day 6 of the America's Cup and today could well be crunch time because today is the first day that the Cup could actually be lifted above the Kiwis' heads. What they need to do is to win 2 races. Now, to come down and get some more expert analysis from my good friend and expert commentator Freddie Carr, I've come down to their base and we're going to have a little chat there today. Apparently the coffee's on tap and he's all ready to go. And just in case you were wondering, I did get that gum shield. Feels a lot better today. If you don't know what I'm talking about, check out the blog. Day 6. Our nerves are all a little bit jangled, to be honest, after day 5, aren't they, Freddie? Oh. Here we are again with Freddie Carr, and this time today we're actually at the Ineos base, which is obviously home to Freddie for quite some time. The first thing I want to kick off with, Freddie, was yesterday. Before we get into some of the things that we can learn from yesterday, the pressure. We talked to pressure yesterday. The pressure now the Kiwis have moved ahead. I can't imagine what it's like as an individual in a team on a day like today when the pressure's on. I get stressed enough at a national championship or a weekend dinghy race.
Right.
But every time I watch you guys walk down the pontoon on a big day, what does it feel like?
Yeah, it's pretty humbling, particularly for the Kiwis. They're walking down with a hacker on one side, all their family on the other, 10,000 people on the dock with the Air Force flying over the top. I'd say that would get you thinking about your day of racing, but I reckon they're probably a little bit more relaxed today than they were this time 24 hours ago. For 2 reasons. Obviously the score, they're 5-3 up, but in race 1 yesterday they actually finally showed their VMG advantage in over 11 knots of breeze, and we haven't seen that so far, and yesterday we saw it. So finally the designers and the sailors and the performance group would have gone, we are there, we did get this right, and we do have a lick of pace upwind and downwind with depth against Luna Rossa.
And do you think that was simply because we were in a wind range that was probably higher than we've seen throughout this Cup so far?
Yeah, it's funny. That second upwind in the first race yesterday, it built to 11.5 knots. So we're not talking windy, are we? It's still light. But it just stepped away from what we'd seen over the last 2 days. And the boat just transformed. Like, I was privileged enough to be in the helicopter commentating, and the gains that they were making in speed through the water was phenomenal. So they'll be encouraged by that now. And you look at the forecast for the next 2 days here, and it should be north of that, let's call it 11 knot sort of barrier that they jumped over yesterday.
That's interesting, isn't it? And yet on the Italian side, they won 2 starts yesterday. They led for 3 legs actually in one case, but certainly for the first 2 legs. And they're quick, and so I would imagine that their debrief started with, okay, we lost 2 races, but we won 2 starts. But we're quick, we can do it.
Yeah, no, it would have been positive. Up until yesterday, I mentioned in my commentary that no one's won a start yet, really. Until yesterday. I thought people had been throwing starts away, and then yesterday Jimmy won those starts, and not only did he win the starts in terms of getting the boat off a little bit faster and in my opinion a better position, but you could see with Team New Zealand quite often with 25 seconds to go you have the option to do your kill early, get down and reset, or to kind of really kill high and then do a late, and they just hovered. You could see that they were kind of in that no man's land, and yes, they got a start out of it, but they didn't manage the last 30 seconds that well in either start. It went on not to be important throughout races 7 and 8 because we saw our first overtakes in the Cup. But for sure, Jimmy is starting the boat better. There's no doubt about that. Now, they've led round both first marks yesterday and couldn't convert it in the first race because of New Zealand's superior boat speed, and the second race, man, I mean, you could talk for hours about that second race. It was one of the most crazy America's Cup races I've seen, but fundamentally were pretty unlucky, I thought.
Yeah, indeed. And yet yesterday we also talked about the debrief, which was interesting because obviously that would have been a big feature yesterday. But we also talked about Jimmy Spithill and how this is where he's at his best, isn't it, really? I mean, he's probably at his best winning, but his next best is when his back's against the wall and he's really got to fight. And he just seemed, in last night's press conference, he seemed more animated, he was more focused, he was exactly the Jimmy that we expected to see.
He definitely had shades of Jimmy from 2013. Which we haven't seen for a while, and I don't think we saw that from him in 2017. In 2017, he never really looked like he had his chest out, and it looked like he knew the writing was on the wall. Whereas in 2013, you could tell he had a bit about him, and I definitely see more of the 13 Spithill than the 17 Spithill right now.
So, momentum, and what do we take out of day 5's racing and roll over to when we're looking at day 6? What do you think the key things are that maybe paint a slightly different picture, not things that we didn't know this time yesterday?
So this time I always knew that jib choice was huge, and it proved to be. In race 1 yesterday, it proved to be huge, and actually it proved to be huge also in race 2 until the breeze really shut down on the Italians. They were on the right jib and paying dividend. They just did attack in the lightest spot of the lightest race. Like I said, a little bit unfortunate. What translates into today? We're on race course C, which is brilliant. That's what the Cup's about. We're on the stadium racecourse under the city, next to North Head. Leeward Gate's going to be at Rangitoto. Like, this is what the vision of the Cup was. It's the sportiest course, basically. It really is the sportiest course. There's more lanes to overtake than any other course, so that's going to be good. And do you know what? That's good for Prada, because they had a bad day on course E now, and it's like in any other sport. If you have a stadium, a pitch, a tennis court that you associate with losing, it's quite easy to get into that mindset. So that lot, forget course E. We're done with that. They beat us yesterday on course E. Brilliant, new day today. We're on course C today. We're out of a westerly, different pitch.
I was going to say, yes, we should say that the reason we're there is because it's a southwesterly breeze, which Regatta Director Ian Murray has been saying all along. Course C is great for a southwesterly, and when we get it, we'll probably end up there.
And it's great that we are. It's great that we are. We've all been on this journey over the last 10 years into stadium racing, and this is the ultimate bigger foiling yacht stadium racecourse with a country that loves it more than anything. North Head is going to be packed today.
Anything else that we can take from yesterday that might help us understand what happens today?
Always blows me away how calm the Kiwis are when they're behind, and they've been behind a lot. I sometimes think that's a bit of bravado. I often go, maybe the lads are just acutely aware that the whole world is listening, and that's their front, let's call it. But I actually don't think it is a front. I think it is just how they operate. It's just very calm, matter of fact, between Blair and Pete and Glenn. And I know that Andy Maloney and Josh Jr. chip in as well. So I give huge credit to those two guys. They're very often not spoke about, but I think they are the two members of the 5-man afterguard that are never talked about. They're two fantastic fin sailors in their own right, two of the top 5 fin sailors in the world. They've won the Youth America's Cup with Pete and Blair, and they not only are they grinding and chipping in tactically where they can, but they're also flying the boat in the corners. So all of these gains that we've seen in their tacks that we saw yesterday, I put a lot of it down to Josh and Andy.
Interesting. In the press conference last night, Peter Burling said better to be lucky than good, which is obviously an expression we hear quite a lot, but I just wonder whether how much he actually believed in that as well. I wonder how much they went away from that thinking to themselves, we were quite lucky in that one.
They were lucky. They did that jibe on the first downwind. Was it the first downwind?
Yes, it was.
It was the first downwind, and they were on a roll, chose to jibe, came back through the air, dirty air of themselves and Luna Rossa, and we saw them wallowing around. And Luna Rossa were gone. They just needed to keep the hull dry, didn't they? And from my perspective in the helicopter, I was looking 500 metres north of the Windward Gate as they're getting up there, and there were massive holes. And I just thought, if you mistime one of those, then you're in a heap of trouble.
So I think they made a mistake as well. From the perspective that we could see down in the water, it sounded like from the comms when they went through that critical tack that ended up seeing them planted, you could hear Jimmy saying lots of cavitation there, guys, lots of cavitation, and you could sort of see a lot more spray off the leeward foil as well. This sort of suggested to me that they've made a mistake, and it just goes to show what fine margins this Cup is raced.
And it's it's amplified massively in the light airs. So when you're piloting the boats, doing either the rudder or the foil or the cant, there's so many variables, or the roll moment with the traveller or the jib cut. So there's all of these ingredients getting packed into this one tack manoeuvre. Now, if your entry speed is 40 knots, you can be half a degree out with your ride height and your flap control and get away with it because you've got the speed to carry you through. Now, if your entry speed into those tacks is 30, 32 knots, then you have not got a single bit of margin for error. And that's what we saw on that tack.
Yeah, interesting. Now, just a quick word on the plight of the grinders, because we heard, as a grinder yourself, and we heard quite a lot just from the teams themselves, both skippers, both helmsmen giving great credit to their grinders, saying as it gets lighter, it gets harder. Now, for some people, that would seem to be the wrong way around, but why is that the case?
Just the constant changing of sail shapes. You need a really deep and powerful mainsail and jib to take off, to get, like in any boat, just get grunted up, get everything rumbling, but then boom, when you hit 15, 16, 17 knots of boat speed and you pop onto the foil, you need to flatten out that aero package as quickly as possible. So even if you're going into a light air tack, you'll land and you'll ease Cunningham out haul, you'll land with the jib further out. So everything gets, as soon as you land, you power up. And then 2 seconds later, you start building speed, and the amount of oil you have to shift through the systems to power the boat up. And now we're not talking trimming things on by 500 kilos here. We're talking about moving tons and tons and tons of stuff. And you do that on every tack, on a 6-tack beat, and it's pretty hard work, to be honest.
Sounds like it. All right. Well, today could be the day, couldn't it? So,
yeah.
What do you reckon?
No, I knew you were going to ask that. Oh,
well, you were right yesterday.
I was right yesterday. Yeah, I was right yesterday. For the first time in,
you did
in
put
the America's
a few qualifications
Cup.
in there as well.
Yeah. I was right yesterday. What I thought yesterday was the person who won the first race would win both races. I thought it was time that something shifted. I didn't expect it to happen like it did.
Don't think anybody did.
No. Oh, yeah, okay, I'm going to go the same again. I think.
Do you? Yeah.
I think at 4 o'clock, everything I'm seeing is, if it's a 2-race day and this weather front arrives and there's 10, 12, 13, 14 knots for our start times at 4:15, 5:15, on course C, where Pete and Blair grew up sailing, shifty course, so if they're behind they can get around again. I think the America's Cup could be going above someone's head this evening.
The trouble is, you are making so much sense. All I want to do right now is to put my fingers in the ears, because I don't.
You want it to keep going.
I want it to go for another day.
Yeah.
But I think you make absolute perfect sense on that. I think, but ultimately, I think it's going to come down. I'm sure you probably agree with this. It's going to come down to the timing of that front.
Yep.
And I spent all morning looking at the weather and trying to get a feel for which models. And the models seem to agree quite a lot. I mean, they haven't done over the last few days, but the timing of that front is critical. And the reason why it's critical is because the breeze is supposed to come at 4 o'clock, right at the beginning of the race. And that's quite a big ask on a weather forecast, isn't it?
It is, and it could be a day of gear changes, choosing the right jib, gear changes throughout that 20-minute, half-an-hour race window. So that could be a pretty different day. Yeah.
I think I'm pleased I'm not Ian Murray, the regatta director. There's a fair bit of pressure on his boat as well, I would imagine.
For sure.
Still, he's done it before.
He's done it a few times, yeah.
Good stuff, Freddie. Pleasure as always. Well, let's see how it ends up.
Yeah, nice. Cheers a lot.
So that was what we thought was going to happen this morning. How did it actually pan out? Here's a quick summary. Today felt different. Today had pressure, tension and expectation aplenty. Today was day 6 of the America's Cup. After 2 thrilling races the day before, now for the first time lifting the cup was a possibility for the defenders, Emirates Team New Zealand. Win the next 2 races and the cup would remain in New Zealand. Lose them and the scoreline will be levelled once again. A new racecourse was in use, Course C, the Stadium Course. Luna Rossa, Prada Pirelli were focused on a battle from the start, forcing the Kiwis to tack off early up the first beat. The match was incredibly close, just 1 second at gate 1. There had been lead changes upwind and down. Luna Rossa delivered blow after blow to keep the Kiwis at bay, but on the last windward leg they broke through. Emirates Team New Zealand took the lead and scorched to the finish. An impressive win A devastating blow. The pressure was now on for race 10. But the weather had other ideas, as a big shift and a drop in the breeze swept across the course area. There was no time to reset. Race 10 was abandoned.
This is the race committee. Racing has been abandoned for the day.
And the pressure rolls over to tomorrow.